started with my brother initially. I got into real estate in general in 2019. That's when I got my license. And I still practice real estate. That's what I do. That's how I'm actually able to finance on Saturday. Are you bullish on the region? Like, what's your sentiment?
In 2019, we helped initiate and approve a habitat conservation plan. And what this plan does is it streamlined and combined different sections of environmental laws into one permit.
These lawsuits, pertaining to the environment, and could really drag a development for many, many years, especially if you have these environmental groups that have money behind themselves.
There was a recent report put out that project initiation documents in the state of California are now 0. For new capacity, it has been shut off in the state. If your population is growing, you have to continue to provide the services that every civilized society needs, have mobility, have choice to live and drive where you want to go.
How complex is this to acquire right-of-ways, from private property owners?
You have to have a lot of trust with the property owners. You have to treat them fairly. You have to establish fair market value. You have to negotiate. Every acquisition agreement is going to be unique. Welcome to Between Two Shovels. We're here, another episode. I'm Minnema, Executive Director of Connector JPA, and with me, Vitaliy from Onsite Observer.
Thank you for having me, Derek.
Absolutely.
I watched the first episode. It was really good.
Did you like it?
Oh, I loved it because I texted you right away and I told you this is what the construction, the civil engineering, the industry needs conversations like this.
Yeah.
And I say this because I go a long way to find information like this, online, and it's not often available.
Sure.
And to have the curtain, sort of pulled and see behind what's happening, it's really helpful.
Not a lot of civil engineers stand in front of cameras and ask questions.
What's with that?
Things like that. It's not in our nature, my friend. It's not in our nature.
Well, you do it really good. I
you.
think you got to keep this up, and it's for the greater good. It's good for people to know.
How did you get started?
Well, sort of kind of by accident, honestly, to tell you the truth. We started, I started with my brother initially.
Say it again.
Moskalenko brothers.
Moskalenko brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
My brother and I, but I got into real estate in general in 2019. That's when I got my license. And I still practice real estate. That's what I do. That's how I'm actually able to finance Onsite Observer.
Sure. I figured there's something that's making you money.
Yeah. Yeah. So I started in 2019. I worked for a real estate team for about 2 years. And then I decided to go on my own, and then my brother joined me. And I remember departing from the team thinking that one of the first things I'll do differently is utilize social media and create content. And in fact, when my brother and I leased our office, one of the first things we brought in the office was cameras, some lights, a few other equipment, which we didn't know what to do with. We just had no idea what kind of content we're going to do. We just knew that we got to get in front of the camera and start creating content. And, we started off doing some weird stuff that wasn't performing well at all. We just took us a while to find our voice.
Sure.
We were talking about complex topics like Fed policies, the stuff that's happening in the real estate world, the rates. And we thought the more we're going to educate the viewer, the better, the more they'll trust us. Not always the case on the internet. So we did a content like this for a while. For 2 years, we were consistently posting stuff. And we were okay, we're not going anywhere. It's been like a long time, and we're 500 followers. This is just a very slow growth.
Sure.
So we would look at analytics, and we're realize that people on the internet tend to like more visual stuff. So maybe we should incorporate cool houses or something. Yeah. We're in the real estate after all, right? We want to sell more houses. So we started covering real estate, cool houses, not just in Sacramento, but different states, luxury houses. And those did a little bit better. But then we'll look at the analytics, and then we see viewers from New York, seeing viewers from India, from Ukraine, probably my relatives. That's where I'm from. And we're what are we doing in all these different areas?
Yeah.
This is not the audience that will buy a house from us. So we have to start focusing local. And I remember we used to take turns. My brother would make a video, then I'll make a video, and then I'll make something, he makes something. But I was sitting down and I just had no topic. I didn't know what to put out, and it's my turn. And then I stumbled on an article reading how Lincoln is trying to annex about 5,000 acres into their city limits, and they'll build 5,000 houses and elementary school and high school and town center. I'm this is huge.
Yep.
I haven't really read local news like in that way. It was always more national,
Sure.
like what the Fed is doing like today. Um, and then I'm like, how come you don't really see stuff like this on like internet?
Because it doesn't exist. You feel the need.
Like everybody's just so wants to talk about national stuff,
Yeah.
but like the local stuff affects you more. Like
Absolutely.
I was stunned, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make a video about this.
Right.
I made a video. It did better than the previous stuff that we used to do,
Sure.
and then I just kept reading about topics like that. And then the video that really helped us to pushed us forward, it was the redevelopment of Sunrise Mall.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember like I made the story, posted it, and then I see like these other local pages picking up the video, posting it on their pages, and they're sharing it. And like I said, it took us 2 years to build to like 500 followers on Instagram, and then with a matter of like couple of months, we were at 10,000 followers.
Amazing.
And then I was I realized like this is what people want to know more of.
Yeah.
And the best part is that these are the people that live here.
Right.
So we have direct influence and connection with these people. It's not just people in different countries. And
You're a local journalist.
well, that wasn't the goal at all.
No,
I just wanted to create
I
content.
know. I know, but that's what you are now. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like we started doing that and realizing that this is what the public wants to hear more of, at least on the internet.
Yeah.
And then you learn about projects like the Connector. That one was
How did you come across this?
I came like your guys' business page reached out, and
That was me.
was that you? It was Connector JPA on
Yeah.
Instagram.
I said, let's do a collab.
Yeah. So I'm like, and I had no idea anything about Connector
Yeah.
at the time. And then I go and research. I'm like, hold on. It's a whole like a beltway around downtown connecting these different cities. And there's no video on Instagram about this. So I have to do something. So I was just very excited to put something together. And I was basically like I was combing through the internet to find anything I can. I didn't have any B-roll footage or anything. So it took a little bit of time. And then just recently you reached out directly. That was a big one too. So now like, I'm like, man, I actually get to have an inside access to what's going on in Connector.
Well, let me tell you, man. Let me tell you that it's always a little bellwether for me to see who contacts me about a story. And so if something's written in, call it the Sacramento Bee, I will wait to see if anybody texts me or call me about it. Same thing with like a news story with KCRA or something like that. Your videos, people share with me, right? They'll be like, hey, that it's always been an indicator of the audience, like where the audience is.
Yeah.
Right. We'll do things. I mean, they'll write stories anywhere and nobody shares that with me. Nobody. Right. But your videos really have attracted that attention, and people will say to me, it's happened on several different occasions now. Hey, I saw that video. Right. And so, and part of it is this project interfaces with a lot of development interests.
Yeah.
And so I know these people, and they'll be like, hey, like that person's done videos on my project. Right. Oh, and so, I get a lot of those. And so I've been like, well, we should come in and sit at the Connector JPA podcast.
That was amazing. Like, I do believe like the local channels are great sources. I think they should just utilize social media better. I just don't see them doing much. It's sort of like their format tends to be just the traditional way. The way you saw it 10 years ago, it's about the same today. And I'm not saying that I'm competing with them or anything. I think that if they were to utilize social media better, more frequently, I think they would do a lot more, because they do break like amazing stories. They have an inside scoop on a lot of the stories. They have direct access with the executives and the people behind these projects.
Sure.
I'm an outsider, so whatever I find on the internet, and if I could put some good together, that's what I share.
Yeah. You said you're from Ukraine.
Yeah.
Is that like recently you came here?
60 will be 17 years this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's been a while.
Not one of the recent.
No.
Okay.
No, it's crazy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm married to practically an American wife. She was born here. Her parents, her dad is Polish, but he was born here. Her mom is from Mexico, but she was very young when they came here.
You have kids?
Yes, I have 3 with the 4th on the way. 2 boys and 2 girls.
Oh, congrats. Congratulations.
They're all still very young and, like, you have kids too.
I have 3.
Yeah, and it's like, they're still trying to, like, learn how to sleep at night.
Yeah.
It's not always great.
Now you've branched out. You've started the Onsite Observer
Yeah.
website,
Yes.
which this is like a news website.
Yeah.
Describe it.
Yes. When I was starting the website, so like with the social media stuff, even if you do good, there are certain things that you got to keep in mind, and you sort of have to protect yourself. Like even if you have a large audience, at the end of the day, it's a rented audience. It's not yours. You are also at the mercy of different algorithms that change very frequently, and you don't know about it. So some stuff can do well, and then the next week the stuff is not performing so well, even though you did just as good work, maybe even better. So you always have to have a backup plan where you can direct your the audience that you accumulate through these social medias to a platform that you have control over.
Fascinating.
And that's sort of like one of the reasons for the website is to have our own algorithm that I control versus the one that these different platforms, because I got banned before and we were super small, so it didn't matter at the time. But stuff like this happens, like accounts get banned all the time by accident even, or sometimes people that comment in the comments could write something crazy and the algorithm can pick it up as a violent content, and then just matter of, seconds, your account is gone. So, and you lose the connection with all these people that you've created. So it's kind of sort of to like hedge against occasion like this.
So I feel like you started in social, and what you're trying to do is develop the website, right?
Yes, but at the same time, I do understand that I will not be able to do what I'm, like it's not going to be as easy to grow like a personal website as, for example, social media, because at the end of the day, like you mentioned, everybody's on social media, everybody uses the app.
Right.
So I'm not trying to like exit or just eventually stop using.
No. I get that. I get that. I just what's interesting to me as you're talking is that for me, everything was about the website first, and maybe that was a mistake. I don't know, but for us, we started about a year ago, maybe 2. I don't know. Really trying to put a little bit more of a focus on digital content, and we have a board, right? So we need to share our items. We need to share our items with the board and things like that.
Yeah.
But for us, it's the social is new, right? Whereas the website's been there, and like it's been something that has our content from our board reports and things like that. And I'm still not exactly sure. To me, I kind of just
related to, yeah.
I look at this stuff as almost like it's like just a modern version of public outreach. Like we used to always do public outreach. You'd mail out mailers, or you'd invite people to a public meeting so that you would share your project information. But this is like just kind of the modern version of that.
Yeah.
And it's new. Like not social media is new, but how I'm trying to get our project information out is so I feel like I'm just kind of like going along here.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you want to do a podcast? Yeah, come on in. Like just be available, be accessible.
That's amazing. And you guys are moving fast too. So you're implementing like a lot of new things fast, which is great. You want to do that. In fact, I can't think of any local developers that do something that what you guys do.
Well, they don't want to. They don't want to, because I've invited them on, and I'm like, hey, come on, it's me, right?
Right.
It's nice and sad. It's not live, and
is it like they're always like afraid to say something that could just be against them later, or like because at the end of the day they're working, like a lot of times people work. I understand the developers that work like on massive developments, and it's always 50-50. You have a side of people that might not like you much, and if you.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's the nature of the business that it's more of a behind the scenes. I don't see a lot of advertisements for developments, right? I think once things get a little bit more secure and their lots are in place and they can sell homes, then the home builder is doing social media, right? The home builder is marketing a product. But before home building is the entitlement process, project approvals. And I
Always
just think there's a certain, gun shyness there. I mean, they just don't want to get, there's too much exposure.
yeah.
And, maybe that changes. I don't know.
I
But
I think it will. Like it's like you mentioned, like the way you do outreach now has changed. Like the way you reach people, and at the end of the day, when you propose something huge, you want people on your side. They do show up on these public meetings, and they do make comments. So I think you really want to have that communication with them. And I'll give you a prime example. I mentioned before that I was able to meet with one of the people that are for the California Forever, the new city they're trying to build in Sonoma County.
yeah.
And one of the things I remember I told them is that how impressed I was at the time with their communication. They also try to implement social media, and they go big. And Yas Ramek, the guy that's actually leading the project, meets people at coffee shops and meets them at houses, goes all these different places. And I'm like, man, I'm not even afraid to do that because, as you know, like California Forever, like the whole project is, again, 50-50, like a huge side of it. Like people are opposed to the project. But he goes out there, he communicates with people. They have a whole social marketing team too. They do a lot of stuff on the.
But isn't that development in trouble? Is it going to get approved?
Well, it's not in trouble. It's in the making.
I heard Solano County is just going to be like, no.
Solano County is tough to work with, though.
Yeah.
So I read a few of their articles on their website sharing how it's been challenging to come to some sort of a agreement with them, and they were going to go on they were trying to approve the project through a ballot measure last November.
So that was, you're kind of, I don't know, you might be proving the point here though, right? Is that they probably should have worked behind the scenes a little bit more, right? I mean, I'm not sure that being out in front in the social media has really helped them.
Right, but see, here's the thing though, like when they were like acquiring the properties, they were doing it behind the scenes. And in fact, that's what got them in trouble a little bit. But they were doing so because they just didn't want to have these other property owners knowing that this huge property is trying to acquire all these properties.
New city.
Yeah. So and then the prices get inflated. So they were trying to like do what pretty much anyone does. They're doing it in the silence, and But then you saw the headlines saying that,
it was China buying
group of billionaires
by the Air Force Base. Yeah, I would be curious to know who their land use attorney was, who was kind of advising on things like that. Well, I understand where you're going with it.
But again, social media, I think in the future, like more developers because like it's such a, like I don't have any construction experience or civil engineering experience at all, but it's such a great industry to showcase, like to put on camera. And that's sort of what inspires me. Like sometimes when I go and visit a project site and I get a good drone footage, that's really inspiring. I'm like, I sit down, I look at the video, I'm like, I want to write the best story I've ever written because it just looks so great. I mean, and plus, like, structure has a way of affecting people's life. Like, especially like infill projects. Like, for example, either rail yards, we have a good amount of those. And how, like, rail yards, right? It was a rail yards for hundreds of years, and it was an economic driver years ago. And then civilization changed, things changed, the way we transport stuff also changed. And then all of a sudden, this economic driver now is no longer the driver. And then through all these years, it now becomes irrelevant. And now we have to repurpose it into something else. And you have these this industrial zones that are no longer viable. So we have to come up with something new. And it's happening in my time. And I get to witness this transitional moment. And something new is being built now that will also probably be for another 100, 150 years, which means it would outlive me. So when I see this transitional moment on projects like this, or you guys are like doing, you mentioned last time when I was here that Grant Line was like 50, 60-year-old roads.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's no longer going to be this way. It's now going to be 4-lane for the next who knows how long.
Yeah.
So I always found that very inspiring.
That's great
to see that.
So you've been covering Sacramento for a while, right? The region. You've seen a lot of the development come through. Are you seeing challenges? Are you bullish on the development trends? Where, Are projects stalling? I mean, what's your
Yeah.
take on the
Yeah.
industry here?
I think residential is doing great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the developers sort of found a way to cope with these higher rates. They're not happy. Um, but I think the resident like we have such a enormous amount of large residential developments bringing thousands of new houses. So that's a good sentiment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, project like the commercial is a bit challenging.
Sure.
I've been accused before being overly optimistic on Instagram. I covered some one of the high rises that's proposed in downtown. There's like a 3-1 Capitol off of Capitol Mall,
Oh yeah.
and there's one across the street. I forget the name for that one. And they proposed a change a while ago, and I covered it, and the comments were like, we don't think that's gonna happen. It's
The pit
You're- yeah.
up 4th and Capitol.
yeah. Yeah. So
Oh, I remember that story. Oh my gosh, that was a huge media frenzy. I don't know, 10, 15 years ago now, of those twin towers are going to build in.
see, I wasn't even here, so I only learned about the whole thing not too long ago.
Yeah, I mean, but that's life. That there's plenty of developments or projects that are talked about but kind of fizzle out. You know, is there something in the Sacramento region that you would love to see built?
I want to see high rises,
You want to see high rises?
like a lot.
Do you really?
I do. Like high rise has a way of sort of giving a name to a city.
Mm-hmm.
Like you think of like an iconic structure, like whether it's London, whether it's in New York, like Empire State Building, and you easily think of that area. Do we really have anything like that besides the Tower Bridge?
Is London the capital of England?
I believe so.
Is it? Okay. All right. Yeah. I don't know.
Uh,
Sometimes I always kind of distinguish capital cities from other cities. Yeah. I always, the thing about Sacramento and I've described it as a government town, right? It's a government town.
Yeah.
It's hard to compare it to cities, right? Like, just look at San Diego. I mean, it's, LA. These have industries that, bring so much private capital investment into them. And the nature of a government town is just totally different. And if I was to send you on a study mission, you go to Albany, don't go to New York City, and then you tell me which high rises are in Albany that you'd like to see here. That's I would just frame it in that way.
Yeah.
Frame it in that way.
Okay.
Like, go to another capital city.
Right.
And now there's ones out there, right? Austin, Texas, fantastic, beautiful city, great place. And
Yeah.
I think Sacramento could be certainly a lot better. I mean, I would like to see downtown be a little bit more clean, a little bit more vibrancy,
I
kind
think
of
that's what they try
bring
to do
back
now.
the swagger. Like, I've lived here a long time,
Yeah.
and there used to be some swagger, and I think it's time for it to come back. I would like to see that.
I think like COVID-19 was a huge eye opener, and it wasn't just for Sacramento downtown. The downtowns all across the nation. That you can't just have like business districts upon business districts upon business. You have to have a entertainment angle, residential angle, so that way when people are locked home, they don't just leave downtown overall, and
Right.
they still live there, so they still go out and shop.
So there's not Gotham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to change that and the rail yards sort of give like a second chance to downtown in a way, at least.
Another project that has been around for a very long time.
Yep.
What number? I don't know, like the 4th owner right now. I mean, I don't even know.
Well,
I want to see it get done. Sure.
Yeah.
We all do.
The fact that we're seeing like already some sort of movement, like with the rail yards just broke ground. Kaiser just broke ground at rail yards, and now the stadium they're hoping to break ground in the coming months, and they have the enhanced infrastructure financing district, and that will help finance the.
We tried to do that for the connector.
How did that go?
Like a lead balloon.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
I think it's such a cool way to do like a private-public partnership. Like I see this kind of structure, it's same thing that they did for Aggie Square.
Yeah.
Like the city's there involved really well, and then you have UC Davis, Wexford Science and Technology. And Wexford is paying for majority of the infrastructure, but the city is pitching into through.
Yeah, we tried an EIFD. we did a little bit of research on it. We brought in some attorneys, the folks who created the very first one, and they did a fantastic presentation. But what an EIFD does is it takes tax money from the general fund, really, future tax increment, right? So anything that constrains the general fund is on high alert. Let's use say like that. And so it was not received favorably. But at least I could say we explored it, right? And we actually didn't just talk about it. We actually did like a nice analysis and really, we did quality work to look at it. But, funding for us is extremely challenging. Just there's plenty of money out there. It's just what money is there available to us?
Well, when I was watching the first episode, one of you guys mentioned a really good point. I'm like, really? Because I didn't even know that. Like when you guys get these grants, it's not just like a money transferred into a bank account or anything. It's just like a permission to spend that amount. But then later on, it has to come out from somewhere, right?
Yeah, no, it's all reimbursement, right?
So who comes out with the upfront cost? Like you're going to get reimbursed. So you guys do. So similar to how the EIFD would work, where the developer would come up with the infrastructure cost and then later on will get reimbursed through the property taxes.
Well, I think we're marrying two different things there. I mean, EIFD is very different. We would have put in, a tax authority and there would have been, revenue coming in, right? But, so when we have local funding through what's called Measure A, which Sacramento Transportation Authority administers, and that's kind of like our, call it cash, right? Like it's still not in our account; it's in STA's account, but it's
accessible, yeah.
Yeah, it's in the Sacramento County Treasury. Okay, so it's the same office building as ours. You just move it from one account to the other.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how I consider like our cash account is having some Measure A dollars. And so what happens is we'll expend the work, we'll pay the invoices. It comes out of our account, and then we submit reimbursement claims. And those reimbursement claims will go to the state, which is also the delegate for the federal government, right? So even if we're getting federal money, it's delegated through the state, right? So are you kind of following that?
I am.
All right.
I am. But when I was researching your project, like the complexity, like all the different stakeholders, and every time you get a grant, now then you are at the mercy of different committees and people that oversee you, like Measure A, right?
Right.
It was like, was it passed in 2004? Yeah. It's like $50-something million to 2039, I think. But then now you have Sacramento Transportation Authority overseeing everything, right?
Yeah.
And the private committees overseeing the budget and the design and the...
They're actually the easy one.
I was going to ask, which agency is the easiest to deal with?
Well, I mean, if you get a federal grant agreement, which we have a federal grant agreement, I mean, I think it's like 50 pages long, right? I mean, it's incredible. And so you're going through compliance with the Code of Federal Regulations, CFR, Code of Federal Regulations. So those federal monies, they're all different colors of money, but federal is challenging because there's a lot there.
Okay.
Local money is by far the best, right? Because it's so hyper local. It's right here. The people. The money's held in a treasury that's downtown.
Yeah.
7th and H, right? So it's cleaner, right? And it's just easier to spend and your turnaround time. So think about the burn rate of what we do and the reimbursement cycle. You're really out 60 to 90 days, right? So you have to have a lot of cash in the bank account
I was thinking
to handle those dips and make sure you get reimbursed. And if there's ever a question on the reimbursement, well, that's a 30-day delay, all that, So you really put the work up front to go through what we call pre-award audits, meaning we actually want to get audited at the beginning to show that our processes are in place, our control measures are acceptable, and that the rates we charge are approved. That way, once you start charging, you kind of have that green light.
But it happens post, yeah?
Well, sometimes there's post-award audits,
okay.
For always, right? I mean, but the pre-award audit helps you get some security on the expenditure of funds. You don't want to sign a contract and then find out that you've got, a delay up front.
Yeah.
So yeah, but then of course, anytime the government code allows an audit of anything, like they could just walk in here.
Wow.
Right. I mean, so there's no, everything is just in a fishbowl glass, right? You come in, you want to see anything, it's all here. And so we keep all of our financial records forever. Right. And that's what the government is.
How often do you get audits like that from the federal government? Or it's just kind of like,
Well, first
it
of
could
all-
happen, it can't. Like,
Well, so first of all, yeah.
are there any like red flags that could trigger like
Well,
government audit? Like,
of course, but we get audited every single year. Like,
right.
like let's start
It's
there.
public funds, right?
Yeah. So there is no annual budget without an annual audit. Right. So we have the county can audit, Sacramento Transportation Authority can audit, the state can audit, and the feds can audit. And just whatever they want to see, we have to provide. We have to provide it.
See, I think people just don't know that all this stuff is happening on the background. It's so just easy to say, hey, 34-mile expressway connecting these different cities. But then once you start learning more about it, there's like hundreds of pages of documents. At least that's what's available publicly, but I'm sure there's like thousands of other pages are available on yours. And dealing with different agencies. Do you think it's like the process is overly complex? Could it be like more simplified?
Of course. Oh yeah. I mean, regulatory compliance is just embedded into everything that we do. I mean, so it's just, it has to be there, and there's no getting rid of regulations, but can it be streamlined? Of course. And I think the modernization of laws and regulations occurs on cycles, and there's always an opportunity to clean things up and streamline it. And, an example might be, here's a great example for you, is our environmental permitting, right? So
another complex process too.
yeah, but it's actually been streamlined, believe it or not.
Really?
So in 2019, we helped initiate and approve a habitat conservation plan. And what this plan does is it streamlined and combined different sections of environmental laws into one permit, right? Previous to that plan, if you needed to get an Army Corps permit, you're going to the Army Corps. Fish and Wildlife, going to Fish and Wildlife, right? Everything was separate and on its own.
And each time you got to make a payment, right?
Of course, of course. And so having a single habitat conservation plan has been a regulatory reform that has streamlined it, hasn't eliminated anything, but it certainly has helped in making the process faster.
And you guys have environmental clearance for the whole 34 miles.
So we have CEQA clearance, on all 34 miles. That's California.
Were there any challenges? This is typically the phase where most of the lawsuits appear, and then like
we were sued. Yeah, we had a couple agencies sue, and so we have multiple settlement agreements because the lawsuits were settled, right? And so that was back, I want to say 2011.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
because
edit that out.
Because like these lawsuits, like pertaining to the environment, and could really drag a development for many, many years. Especially like if you have these environmental groups that have money behind themselves that could finance these lawsuits.
Sue and settle. I mean, what happens is you sue and then you settle and you get paid to settle, right? And so that just funds the next lawsuit. Forever, Highway 50 had carpool lanes that would go towards downtown but end at the city limits, right? They couldn't,
Are they part of the Fix 50 project?
Yeah.
The extension from 5 to...
Yeah, but for a long time, they couldn't do that extension because of lawsuits.
Really?
That's why it always stopped right at Watt Avenue. That's where the city limit was.
That's crazy.
But yeah, I mean, we have been sued. We've settled those lawsuits. We comply with the settlement agreement. It's a court, it's published. You can go find it.
Wow.
And all of your research.
Yeah. I think I came across the first time I read about environmental lawsuit, but I do come across them often on different projects. And I know that they could drag a development for many years. And I think Yarborough project in West Sacramento, it's like a master plan community. That one is dealing with like a lawsuit that's been basically dragging the whole thing through. It's been like, I think in around 2008 or so, they wanted to like get the project going, but then the financial crisis happened, then the lawsuits. And it's crazy because like the developer plans, like for example, the developer could have a planning timeline to break ground within the next 5 years or 3 years, for example. but then they now have to plan for a different timeline, and you don't know what kind of economic setting you're going to have
Sure.
at the time.
Oh yeah.
So and then you go through this whole cycle of just uncertainty.
You're not going to stop that. It's just
Yeah.
going to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so, you know, our environmental document took, you know, many years to prepare, multiple volumes. I'm going to say, you know, each volume like this thick. Um, there was a procedural element that we got caught on. And so you know, you're in court, right?
Wow.
So what else do you want to know about, you know, this type of world of,
Well, you travel to different states.
yeah.
And I remember last conversation we had that you go to a different state and you try to explain to them what's a joint power authority, and they just have no clue what you're talking about. In different states, project like this would be financed by the states,
I mean,
typically.
first of all, if you just go right up north or to Reno, Nevada, there's a Southeast Connector in Nevada,
Okay.
in Reno, you know, like buy that project. But it's literally called the Southeast Connector in Reno, Nevada. And, you know, that's being done by NDOT, Nevada Department of Transportation. When you go to Arizona, they call their freeways around Phoenix loops. So it's like loop 101, 202, or 303. You know, that's done by AZDOT. Colorado DOT, Utah DOT. I mean, the Western regions are, you know, all these Department of Transportations are doing, you know, regional roadways, and we're just a little different here in California.
Yeah.
Just a little
It's a
different.
bit of a kind of type of shifts away from like highways.
Oh, significantly. I would say that, and now we have the data. There was a recent report put out that project initiation documents in the state of California are now 0. And so
That's-
for new capacity, it has been shut off in the state. And, you know, I'm pretty sure that was intentional. That's what everyone said they wanted
That's
to do.
probably a product of policies, and it has to be.
Yeah, it's the policy that has been
Yeah.
wanted for a long time. And I think that pendulum will shift. I think you have to build capacity. If your population is growing, I mean, you know, you have to. And so I don't care if it's reservoirs or airports or seaports or highways or broadband, I mean, or prisons. I mean,
Yeah.
you're going to have to continue to, if your population is growing, you have to continue to provide the services that every civilized society needs, and having the ability to move around, have mobility, have choice to, you know, live and drive where you want to go. It's all going to stay here.
Yeah.
And so the near-term policy changes, which have, you know, really reduced highway capacity expansion, you know, they're here now, but I don't think they'll for always be here. I mean, it won't be here forever.
Right.
You're going to have to do something to build out.
For some reason, like I don't know, like do you think it's public transportation or public transit became a little bit more appealing to sell to stakeholders? Like, do you think there's a influx of money in those projects, or like how competitive? You guys compete against funding that's, for example, like transit or highways?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the transportation world, you're always competing in some
So
way.
it's different type of modes of
Yeah.
It's not just okay highways.
I think it all stems from the climate argument. I think that if we're trying to say that climate change is an existential threat, it's a crisis, then all measures are on the table to address it, and all austerity measures in terms of roadway capacity has to be cut off. So if that's the belief that you have, then you're just implementing that policy. And so, you know, we're operating in a framework where if carbon dioxide is a product of road expansion, then we have to stop road expansion.
Yeah, wow.
Simple as that. So,
So it's challenging. It's very
you know, but things have always changed. I mean, just a few years ago, there was a big push for highway bridges, and, the attention was on fixing and replacing bridges. And so if you had a bridge in your city or your county, all eyes were on that bridge. You can go get money for it, right? And Sacramento got their 150 million or so for the I Street Bridge.
I've been asked before when is that one gonna happen? But I actually recently tried to research if there's been any updates on that thing, and there's nothing.
I worked on that project.
So you worked on I Street?
Well, I mean, I was at a firm that won that job. It was probably like 10, 15 years ago when the city got $150 million like 15 years ago. I mean, it wasn't even recently. So it's been around for a while. I don't know when it's going to be built, but I don't live in the city anymore.
What do you think of the design of what they have? They proposed multiple different designs, but it's certainly way different. Like the Tower Bridge, it's very distinctive.
It sure is. It's very distinct.
Colors too, like the whole. I don't know, like
little avatar.
Yeah, it's futuristic. It's the comments were very mixed.
That's a great way to put it. What? It has mixed comments, mixed opinions.
Well, you have people that are saying like, this is amazing, just build it, whatever it is, and then other people say, well, it's not really reflective of the region, and like you have Tower Bridge, and then I Street Bridge perhaps like mimics some of the characteristics from the historic I Street Bridge that's over 100-something years. But it doesn't really.
The city of Sac and West Sacramento got to figure that out, and I think they've got the design that they want. And best of luck to them to build it. I mean, they still need more money. I mean, I know that they have hundreds of millions, but they need more.
But the longer like we kick the can, the more expensive it becomes.
Of course. They've already had the money for like 10 years.
Right. So I wonder, like, I'm sure there's a way to find out, like, okay, $150 million, where, like, what happened? Well, what kind of like progress we've accomplished with.
Remember that, the money isn't sitting in an account. And so if that money was programmed to the highway bridge program, and if the construction phase never got authorized, then it's just paper money, right? It's just, they're just numbers on paper. Right. So, I mean, there's a long list of projects in this region that were ideas that never got fully implemented, right? And there are some projects that did get implemented that really have no use or utility. And that's just the nature of it. At some point, the decisions are made, and either the project's going to be there or it's not going to be there. I don't know how familiar you are with like Auburn Reservoir, but that was a project that was like
60s.
In construction. They were excavating it.
Well, the Forest Hill Bridge is part of that project.
Yeah. And now it's not there. It's stopped, and it's a state park. So projects can come, they can go.
Yeah.
They can get built and then not get used, or they can just never get built. So,
are you bullish on the region? Like, what's your sentiment?
I have young kids. I'm bullish on the region. Yes. I think California is a great place to raise a family. And at the same time, I can definitely see myself being lured away when retirement is here, for sure, but I live in Fair Oaks. I love Fair Oaks. Okay. I just absolutely love it. And,
like what would be one, maybe multiple projects or like structures. What is the dream of a civil engineer? What kind of structure you want to see, or like something being built?
In this region?
Like, here, you asked me what would I like to see, and I said high rises. It might be nice.
Gosh.
Like, do you think we will emerge as I don't know, one of the reasons why I started covering projects too, because I want to elevate our region, and just because like sometimes we talk to Bay Area folks and they still think that we're this quiet town. And
I would really love to see the Elk Grove Zoo be something really large, like big.
How many acres are we talking? Like
I triple whatever it is now in Sacramento.
Yeah.
I joked about it, like make it like the San Diego Zoo. Like
I've never been to that one.
Oh my God, it's incredible.
Really?
Yeah. Like make it an attraction. I think that would be fantastic.
Well, right now the current zoo in Midtown is 15 acres, tiny. And the one that's proposed in Elk Grove is going to be about 60 acres plus another around 30 or 40 acres for parking and stuff like this. So it's about 100 acres or so.
I think that's great. I want to see a big attraction like that, something like that for sure.
But the execution now is just totally another topic, and we'll see how that happens.
Well, it's going to be in phases for sure. There's no way you're going to do it all at once.
Well, Elk Grove folks, some are freaking out. They're saying, well, is this going to be like the Mall 2.0 that we tried to build years ago, and it just never went anywhere? And then we had to demolish whatever they built, like the mall at the time. So like some people are skeptical cautiously, and they're like, they want to see something like that there, but
Yeah, I mean, these are big lifts, right? These are hard projects to do, but they're worth doing. So I'm trying to think, what else would be something that like I would really love to see? Not really.
or something you would like to work on. I know you mentioned last time when I was talking to you, like, well, this is probably my final project. So,
Did I say that?
depending how long it takes. I
Yeah.
mean, you guys do have still a lot of work, right?
We have a ton of work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about like 50% done. Like,
I'd say more like 30%.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot to do. What other projects? I don't know that I have any other projects I'd like to work on. I'm just focused on this. I'm focused on my family.
Right.
I'm focused on doing the best job I can here.
How did you end up with Connector JPA? You covered a little bit in your first episode, which I watched. You mentioned that you started as an intern at a private firm, and then
I could go through this whole thing, but I mean, really, in the near term, I was working at a private firm doing projects along the connector. I didn't really know that the connector was a project, but I was doing individual things. And I knew the former executive director. I had, marketed him for work, and he was known in the area, and he lives nearby me. And
so you guys still keep up?
No, not often. I think he's enjoying his retirement.
Okay.
But I definitely wanted to work on the project. I'm in the transportation field, and this is a big transportation project.
Absolutely.
So I had reached out to him, and we had some candid conversations about like, if I leave my firm, is this a place that is going to work out for me? And we had those conversations. I talked to many people about it. I didn't make the decision quickly. And he gave me the opportunity to be here and be the full-time project manager and more of a program manager, right? I was kind of managing this. It's really a program, really. And so I was doing that, and for about 3 years underneath him, not with the idea that he was going to retire, but like just being ready, I guess, and yeah, when it was his discretion, his choice to go retire. And it was competitive. There was like 16 people that wanted the job. Yeah. So,
wow. But is there like a voting process?
Oh yeah. The board. Yeah. It's all board. Yeah. A report to a board. They called me in for an interview, but when they scheduled the interview short, I knew that I was in a really good position, right? Yeah. If it was a long interview, I'd be a little nervous, but it was a pretty short interview. And in a lot of ways, I kind of interviewed them. Yeah. But I remember asking, like, do you really want to build this project? Because if you do, we have to really start acting like it. We have to start taking the necessary steps in project delivery to build something. And up till that point, I think a lot of the work here was planning and programming and things like that. And those are very different fields compared to project delivery.
Yeah.
And so that's.
But the tasks as executive director, it's not always just revolves around civil engineering. It's actually like getting the funding, going to different states, DC, having all these meetings.
I don't really do any engineering now.
So it's mainly just. I'm pushing it forward, right?
I'm the chief advocate for the project, right? Like I have to, and I want to secure our funds, secure our approvals, navigate the project through the environmental approvals, the permits, and make sure that we're in a place to be successful. And there's also personnel and budgeting and marketing and, IT. It's like all of these things, accounting and the audits, and it's a million different.
You're going to scare away these civil engineers who are aspiring to become. What advice would you give to someone aspiring to become a civil engineer? Would you say, hey, stick to private work, like private firms, or maybe like embark on some public projects because they're great and easy to work with? Like what?
Well, I mean, what age group are we talking about here? I think if we're
kind of like when you graduated Sac State and then you start working for a private firm.
Yeah.
I don't know what's like the process. Is it easy to break into, like as a civil engineer, like can you go like do like for the city, like become on the planning part of the planning commission perhaps, or is
If you're a recently graduated
yeah.
civil engineer and you're looking to start your career, you need to go work in the private sector doing design work and doing calculations and drafting and
Uh-huh.
just reading manuals and reading specifications. You have to be an absolute sponge. You need to work in a team. You need to work with a lot of people, have a good amount of project engineers and project managers that are mentoring you. You can't even do anything until you're licensed, and you're not eligible to take the test until you've been an apprentice for 2 years, right? So, 3 licensed engineers have to stamp that you are eligible to take the test. You go and take the test, and then you get licensed, and that's kinda when you become a licensed
Actually,
engineer, right? But yeah, if you're graduating college, go work. Go work your butt off
yeah.
and work long hours, work weekends, and do all the things that you need to do to learn as much as you possibly can. And it doesn't matter if it's a small project because all the projects start small. Like
Yeah.
there's no one starts off on something like
Right.
so.
But I think like like doing public projects just more complex from the perspective of different agencies again, like we talked about, different stakeholders,
Sure.
just more politics involved and
And I would just tell anyone coming out of school though that focus more on your knowledge, stuff like that.
Mhm.
It comes with experience, and focus first on being a good designer and producing a quality product. And if you're good at engineering, that's what people want. You're not going to do this if you're not,
Right.
good at the simple stuff, the
Yeah.
stuff that you started with in your career. So
How often does Connector JPA recruits engineers, or you just kind of have established team and it's just kind of like
I don't want any new young
no,
angels. I don't want, you're going to come work here. You better have some experience.
yeah,
It's same with like the private sector consultants who want to work on the job.
they want
Like
to see some
I want gray hairs, man.
yeah,
This is a complicated project. I don't want to teach anyone right now.
exactly.
We're looking for people who know what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be accountable to way too many different agencies. Like I said, like when I was reading, I'm like, man, there's so many angles to this. Like Measure A. How did you, first of all, how did you guys manage to pass Measure A? Because as you've noticed, as of recently, Pasco County has been trying to pass their Measure B for the second time, if I'm not mistaken, and they just couldn't do it.
Well, first of all, that was before my time. That was back in 2004.
Yeah.
Yeah, when that was passed.
JP was established 2006. It's
Right.
not even around.
Right. So, but I know a lot about that campaign. I know people that worked on it, and I've certainly read the ordinance 50 times. So I have all the old campaign material and things like that. You're talking about a time period where there was such a tremendous focus on traffic congestion and trying to relieve bottlenecks, and people were just frustrated with traffic. And there was just a sentiment there. The other thing that was going on was that it wasn't a new tax. So it was an extension.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so you're able to campaign to say that the old tax is expiring. We're not adding a new one. We just want to extend the old
Oh,
one,
okay.
right?
It's a
And
bit of easier sell for sure.
75% of people voted for it.
Wow.
Imagine that today.
No,
No, there's no way, right?
like Foster's been trying to do that.
Yeah.
For their projects.
They're going the wrong direction. Their voting results getting worse. So they actually had a pretty good chance. I think in 2018 they got close, but now it's trending down.
Yeah.
So
But like I was reading their stuff there. It seems like it's reasonable. I mean, and they were only getting votes from Folsom, Roseville, excuse me, Lincoln, and Rockland. But like, I think the sale should have not been that hard to make. Like they saying we're gonna widen 65, we're gonna improve the interchange 80 to 65, and then the Pastor Parkway is another one that's
was that really included though? Because I don't want to speak too much about their measure, but I had a few conversations about it, and I asked about, don't you want to sell that you can get people to the airport quicker? And I was told that that wasn't really the option up there, that Placer Parkway wasn't really included in that measure in the way that could have made a big difference.
in a way it's kind of going to be similar to the connector. right? It's just like 4 lanes, 2 use direction, connecting 99 to.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll recruit you there, and
I'm
They
there
actually
interested.
they have some funding for the first phase, and they're actually undergoing the design review and acquiring right of ways for Whitney Ranch Parkway there,
Sure.
and it's a very small section connecting to Foothills Boulevard,
Yeah.
and that's about it. I think all in
I'm
all,
not familiar with the project, but I do recall I thought I went with the direction of an EIS many years ago, which I thought was strange. But um, eh, I don't want to speak too
Yeah,
much about that
totally.
program up there because I don't know it.
So totally, yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I thought they had a compelling case. You
Yeah.
know, we're gonna widen it because every time I cover something in Placer County, first thing is just 65 is too congested.
Sure.
It is, like the interchange there especially.
Well, they made some interesting decisions, I want to say 12 or 13 years ago on how they phased those 65 improvements, because I definitely remember seeing some plans that would have relieved. When you get projects like this, it's really about choosing the phase that you need to implement first, right? And how you deliver that program.
Yeah.
And I definitely I can't I'm just speaking too off the cuff here, but and it's been a long time, but I definitely recall that like there were some decisions on which projects needed to go first that I thought were very not the ones I would have made.
Yeah.
But that's been so long now, and
It's similar. Something similar you guys had to do for the connector. Like, which section can we do first that will be most effective?
Right.
And it was White Rock.
White Rock was no doubt our top priority because
I mean the area there too with Folsom Branch,
Right.
thousands of houses.
yeah, it's very visible.
Yeah.
The benefit would be very clearly understood, but then also you're building something that is unique. And that's where I think, if I look all along the corridor, Elk Grove has some challenges in terms of its aesthetic, in that it's just going to be another road. Whereas when you can go up into Folsom and Rancho Cordova, you're going to see something that is very different. You're going to see something that you're going to know. Well, the traveling public is going to be like, oh, this is an expressway, right? It's going to be very clear. So, but that's just, how the project unfolds.
I think someone asked, will there ever be tolls?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we're going to have a hard enough time putting tolls on the major freeways. And certainly,
which is sort of what we're trying to do on where the Yolo bypass is.
as
And
people are talking about. We'll see.
yeah.
I mean, there's tolls in the Bay Area, but it'll be quite the challenge to bring tolls into Sacramento. But our project is a local road. It's not an interstate. And so,
But you guys are still dealing with Caltrans simply because you guys are crossing Highway 99, 1650. And I read that, and how much input they have on the design? Do they have just for the sections where you guys intersect, or for the whole thing?
well, so Caltrans is going to have input on the environmental when they're the delegate from NEPA, which is the National Environmental Policy Act, right? So nationally, laws are delegated down to states. And so as the NEPA delegate, Caltrans would oversee all of our
So
environment.
regardless if it's what kind of project, I mean, meaning that even if it's just a local project, it's not a state route or.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
You got federal funds, you're going to do a federal environmental document, and Caltrans.
Oh, there you go.
Caltrans is going to do it through local assistance. In terms of our design, they're not going to have any influence on the design.
I see.
No, we have our own design guidelines, and so do all the cities and counties. So that's not new. That's how it always works. But the environmental approval process does go through them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you've been very busy there. Like, and the other section I read is that Sheldon is the more complex area, the segment of. Is it particularly because, and even like some of the comments I read on some of the videos we made is people are questioning if the roundabouts are going to get sort of spill over like private properties, like houses, businesses. Someone asked, are you guys going to remove some kind of restaurant there along the route because of the roundabouts?
I mean, we're talking 2.5 miles, so not sure what restaurant we're referring to.
Yeah.
But there is certainly a possibility that a restaurant or two has an impact. I think what makes Sheldon complicated is that you just have a lot of parcels. You just have a lot of parcels, right?
Yeah.
So
How complex is this to acquire right of ways, like from private property owners? I had the chance to speak with someone from the California High Speed Rail, and one of the things they'll tell you is that one of the things why the process has been so taking so long is acquiring the right of ways, the utilities, removing utilities. It's actually a very extensive process.
it's one of the most complicated phases of a project. Absolutely. And you have to have a lot of trust with the property owners. You have to treat them fairly. You have to establish fair market value. You have to negotiate. Every acquisition agreement is going to be unique. I mean,
And I think that's like the section or the area that got them the most lawsuits because of property owners.
Sure.
And
No,
they probably had to do eminent domain. And
well, best of luck to them. That is a process that does exist, and we'll try our best to avoid it.
yeah,
But Vitaliy, I think we're wrapping it up.
absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. We'll do it again.
Yeah. Totally.
And yeah, man. I mean, I would say this: call, email, text anytime. And
I'm looking forward to future episodes.
yeah, glad to meet you. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
And I love your questions, right? So if you get, 5 other questions that you want to ask and you want us to go out on site someday,
yeah.
I'm going to meet
Totally.
you somewhere, let's fire away on some questions like that. We'll do another video like that.
I still want to go out there,
Yeah.
and it's just really going to be like, people will see that
Yeah.
there is an expressway. It's not something imaginary we're talking about. We're standing on it. We're walking on it.
All
So I
right.
think it's very like, it sends a message.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you.